Chapter 4 Father in Heaven. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Jesus. This next sky god is not the sky itself, but one who dwells in the heavens. He is one of a group that came from sky and earth. He is the next king of the gods, and can be a stern or punishing god. One may ask, is this an actual being or an abstract idea? Could each generation of gods represent a larger group of beings over a long period of time? The word myth has become synonymous with lie because people do not understand the meaning behind the stories. We do not see the sky and the earth instantly give birth to gods in one generation. So, at face value, the myth can sound ridiculous. But if life evolves from the elements, we have to say that the ancient myths are true. For they all tell us that we are made of the dust of the earth, the elements, and the breath of life, air. From a biological standpoint, this is irrefutable. In the quest for truth, one must use reason and gather information from all sources. Then, as with a puzzle, compare the pieces and find where they fit in the big picture, leaving behind all bias. From a seed, a giant redwood tree is formed. From a single cell, the stages of human life begin in the waters of the womb. Then the growth and development continues in the air and on the land outside of the womb. The child is destined to go through the same stages as the parents did. If God is our Father in heaven, then we are destined to become gods ourselves. But evolution on this planet did not happen overnight, nor did the gods reach their high status in just one day or lifetime. The prophet Joseph Smith said, God himself was once as we are now, and is an exalted man, and sits enthroned in yonder heavens. That is the great secret. You have got to learn how to be gods yourselves, and to be kings and priests to God, the same as all gods have done before you, namely, by going from one small degree to another. This subject will be dealt with more fully in a later chapter. It is touched on here to give an idea of what is meant by a Father in heaven. The Egyptian pharaohs, Roman emperors, and kings all over the world claim to be literal descendants of the gods. Their stories sound fanciful, with characters that do things like eat their children and spit them out alive. Then come the demigods, half god, half mortals, and heroes who become mythical kings and queens of ancient lands. The genealogies go right up to historical rulers like Caesar Augustus, Cleopatra, and Jesus of Nazareth. But some of the so-called mythical kings of prehistory have been found to be real. For example, in Homer's Odyssey there is a king of Argos named Agamemnon who battled in the Trojan War. Because the book is considered myth, it was not believed that such a king ever existed until his death mask was found by Henrik Schliemann in 1876 in an excavation at Mycenae. Thus it would be wise not to be hasty in our judgment of ancient records. Enlil literally means Lord of Wind. He is the original father in heaven of the Abrahamic religions and throughout Mesopotamia and beyond. This becomes clear when we follow the morphology of his name. Sumerian Enlil, Canaanite Elil, Hebrew El, also rendered Eloah, beginning with Aleph or A, Aramaic Ella and Al-Ilah, Arabic Allah. When we find El in biblical names like Beth-El, house of God, or Michael, one who is like God, it means God, the King of Heaven. El was the main god of the Chaldeans and Canaanites. Another interesting note is that when Jesus Christ prayed to the Father in his native Aramaic, he called him Elah, also pronounced Allah. The ancient stories about Enlil say that he had a temple in Nippur called Ekur, meaning mountain house. There is a strong connection between temples and mountains, more detail of which is given in the temple chapter. But Ekur appears to be a temple complex in ancient Mesopotamia, as well as the dwelling place for the god of heaven. Much like how Mount Olympus is an actual mountain in Greece, but was also a celestial abode for the gods. Enlil was sent out of Ekur, celestial mountain, to Kur, a distant mountain, as punishment for lying with a woman. Kur is thought of as the underworld, but it may be this world. The two mountains may very well be different planets, and ours is the lower one. As Earthlings, we tend to orient ourselves to the north-south axis of Earth. The solar system and Milky Way galaxy are thought of as a disk that is viewed from the side. However, intergalactic travelers would use a map that shows the galaxy from above, and up and down from Earth would not be north and south, but closer to or further from the local star. Enlil is not the only mythological figure to be sent down to Earth as punishment. He later returned to his home in the skies called Ekur. Enlil is credited with the invention of the hoe, or pickaxe, reminiscent of his Roman counterpart Saturn, who wields the sickle. The Anunnaki, children of Anu, of which Enlil was one, worked very hard tilling the earth. So Enlil thought it would be a good idea to have some inferior beings do the work for them, much as other animals have been used in agriculture by humans for millennia. But these beings had the same form and likeness as the children of Anu. Eventually, Enlil grew tired of the noise they were making, so he decided to wipe them out with a flood. This mirrors the stories of the Mayan Huracan and the Inca Viracocha mentioned in Chapter 2. Being that he is Lord of wind and air, and that he sent a great flood, Enlil is a storm god and king of the gods. In Sumerian myth, the role of storm god is passed on to his grandson Ishkur. We will continue to see overlap of roles and themes as we go. Yahweh can also be seen as a storm god, as he too decided to kill everyone in a flood, and is associated with lightning and thunder. 2 Samuel 22:14-15 reads, "The Lord, Yahweh, thundered from heaven, and the Most High, Elyon, uttered his voice. He shot his arrows and scattered the enemy. With great bolts of lightning he routed them." Though he is a storm god, it seems fitting that he should be placed here as a father in heaven. In the same chapter of 2 Samuel, King David says that Yahweh came down out of the sky, flying in the wind on a cherub with dark clouds under it. He then shoots lightning at David's enemies. Then he takes David out of the water and brings him to a spacious place. I do not want to scare the reader off just yet by talking about the chariots of the gods, but that seems to be what King David was dealing with. I will quote a few verses from the Bible on the subject and let the reader decide about the mode of transportation that our elder brothers and sisters used. Revelations 14:14-16. I looked and saw a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like a son of man, with a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. So the one seated on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was harvested. Exodus 14:24. During the last watch of the night, Yahweh looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into a panic. The Egyptian army then runs away because they are afraid of Yahweh. 24:16. And the glory of Yahweh abode upon Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the midst of the cloud. 24:18. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud, and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. Moses is one of the few people on record as having direct contact with this God. 33:11 says, Yahweh used to speak to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his friend. In chapter 34, Yahweh tells Moses to get some tablets for him to write on, and verse 5 says, Yahweh descended in the cloud and stood with him there. Through the rest of Exodus and Numbers, Yahweh continues to help the Israelites from his fiery, smoky vehicle that gives off light and can make loud trumpet sounds. He can also call out to large audiences from within. Numbers 12:5. And Yahweh came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron. Notice that he is depicted as a man with legs to stand on and a voice to speak. Isaiah 19:1. Behold, Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud. Ezekiel is notorious for seeing these flying vehicles. He did not know the name of what he was seeing, so he described it in words that he knew. He said, I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning, and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human. He continues to describe 4 identical vehicles as wheels that sparkle and can move in any direction. The top of the vehicle was a crystal-like vault that covered the head of the creatures. Ezekiel 1:4-5. In Kings 19, Elijah goes to a mountain to talk to Yahweh. He sees him passing by, then the earth shook and there was wind and fire. When it calmed down, Elijah went and talked with Yahweh at the entrance of a cave. This brings us back to sacred mountains of the gods. We will continue with their mode of transportation when we discuss angels. We find Enlil residing in the holy mountain Ekur, Yahweh in the caves of Mount Sinai, Cronus at Mount Orthes in Greece, Zeus on Mount Olympus. The biblical name El Shaddai may mean God of the mountains. El was said to dwell on Mount Lel. The ancient pyramids across the globe are temples to the gods and representations of mountains. Shambhala, the underworld kingdom of the gods, is believed to have an entrance in the Himalayan mountains. This leads one to wonder if these sky gods live in the mountains. The ancient Celts of Ireland recorded the arrival of advanced, benevolent, sky-faring beings to their mountains in the book Liber Gabala Aaron. It reads, "It is God who suffered them. Though he restrained them, they landed with horror, with lofty deed, in their cloud of mighty combat of spectres, upon a mountain of Kaminsne of Connacht, without distinction to discerning Ireland, without ships, a ruthless course, the truth was not known beneath the sky of stars, whether they were of heaven or of earth." Again we see flying vehicles landing on mountains, emitting clouds like a modern rocket or jet. The implied question of whether they came from the sky or the earth is what we must now deal with. They clearly ride in the skies and land in the mountains. The sky father of the Celts was called Dagda. He was given the title of the All-Father, just as Odin of Norse mythology. But Odin lives above the earth in a place called Asgard. Norse gods can visit the earth, as when Thor was sent there as punishment, but their dwelling was in Asgard. Zoroastrian cosmology may help in tying the ideas of gods in the mountains and gods in the heavens together. There is a mountain written of in the Avesta called Hara Berezaiti. It is where the gods reside. But this mountain is in the center of the universe, galaxy, and all of the stars revolve around it. Water flows from it to the sea, but this sea is not one of the earth's, but rather the waters in which the planets are held. From this center point, Ahura Mazda began creating the first lands, planets, called Aryanam Vaija. Thus, the Mount of the Gods can be seen as a type for the central bulge of the galaxy. This cosmic mountain is called Mount Meru in the Indian religions and Mount Benben in ancient Egypt. Mormon theology states that there is a star called Kolob that is the closest to the throne of God. The planet where God the Father and his angels reside is described as being like glass and fire. But it also states that there are no angels who minister to this earth but those who do belong or have belonged to it. According to that idea, there are exalted beings that used to belong to this planet and who return from time to time to aid in the development of humankind. And there are also some that still belong to this planet. It is possible that advanced civilizations live in subterranean communities under certain mountains, such as Mount Shasta, where many flying vehicles have been seen. But why would anyone call one of these beings father or elder? From one point of view, our souls grow and develop from an eternal spark of God, ego or I am, into an intelligence that through many lifetimes progresses through the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, followed by the animal kingdom, upward and onward, to spiritual beings, angels, archangels, gods, etc. The beings of ancient times were going through experiences like those that we now experience, but have now moved on to higher existences. The less developed forms of life that we now observe, such as dogs, horses, cows, trees, and vines, will, through gradual stages, progress to the stage of development that we humans now enjoy. With the idea in mind that all living things are connected, but vary in their stages of development, it becomes clear how one could refer to animals as our younger brothers and sisters, and higher beings as our elder brothers and sisters. But the title of Father indicates that we were made from or created by such a being, not merely related as broccoli is to cauliflower. One theory is that these gods or advanced beings genetically created humans by mixing in their own DNA. Another theory is that there was a crossbreeding between the sons of the gods, Elohim, and the daughters of men. A third theory is that Adam, as the first individual human, or as a name for early humans in general, descended from the gods. The book of Luke says, Enos was the son of Seth, which was the son of Adam, which was the son of God. All of these theories may work together as part of a bigger picture that shows that our physical bodies are literally children of God, or at least great-great-great-grandchildren of the gods. Grandfather in heaven. India, Brahma, expanding, the father of the gods. He is a creator god depicted with 3 faces and the white beard of a grandfather. He lives at the peak of the cosmic hill Brahmaloka. The old god of Saturn is called Shani. Persia, Ahura Mazda, wise lord, son of Zuravan, father of the Spentas, angels, and the Yazatas, gods. Akkad, Ashura, the head of the gods who rides his winged disc armed with arrows. Sumerian Enlil, lord of wind, son of Anu and Ki, sky and earth, and the king of the hosts of heaven, often at odds with his brother Enki. Babylon, Elil, same as Enlil. Canaan, El, king of the Elohim gods. Phoenicia, Elus. Arabia, Allah, who was the head of the Arabian pantheon and later became the main god of the Quran. Judea, Yahweh, the main god of the Hebrew Bible. He is analogous with Allah and Jehovah. Hurrians, Kumarbi, the son of Anu and the father of the storm god Teshub. Turkey, Hittites, Elkunirsa, aka Elel, the sky god. Slavic, Ereshvorsh, a storm god like Perun. Greece, Cronus, king of the Titans, born to Uranus and Gaia, sky and earth. He is the father of the Olympians, like Zeus. He was afraid to lose his title to his children, so he ate them. Rome, Saturn. His story is the same as Cronus. Etruscan, Satrae, same as Saturn. He is a frightening god that hurls lightning just like his son Tinia. Celtic, Dagda, the head of the gods and controller of weather. He is known as a wise druid. Norse, Odin, son of Ymir, father of Thor and the other Azir gods. He was also considered to be a great wizard. In Old English, he was known as Woden and Wotan among other Germanic tribes. Egypt, Amun, aka Atum, and later combined with Ra. He is the father of the gods. Amun means invisible one. Nigeria, Yoruba, Olorun, sky ruler. He is the son of Oludumare and the head of the Orisha gods. Yucatan, Maya. Izanami, an early sky god sometimes called Hanuku, the invisible god. Mexico, Aztec, Tonacatecutli, lord of sustenance. He is depicted as an aged creator god. Mongolia, Tengriism. Kyra, son of the sky god Tengri and father of Ulgin. China, Taoism. Yu Huang, Jade Emperor. Like Odin and Olorun, he is one of a trinity called the Three Pure Ones. In traditional Chinese religion, he is called Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor. Australia, Dakhan, is the ancestor god of the Gooby Gooby people. Like Huangdi, he is sometimes depicted as a serpent. He also travels on a rainbow like Odin and the Azir gods. Hawaii, Kane, is the high god of the Hawaiian pantheon and the son of sky and earth. Chapter 5, Mother in Heaven. In the heavens are parents single? No, the thought makes reason stare. Truth is reason, truth eternal, tells me I've a mother there. Eliza R. Snow. The God of heaven has a wife. This is the truth held by all ancient belief systems, including the Hebrews. The goddess is just as important as her male counterpart. In some systems, the two are seen as masculine and feminine aspects of the same deity. It has been suggested that the name Yahweh, Jehovah, is a compound name that contains both male and female. Mormon doctrine asserts that we have a heavenly mother, but other than the above quoted hymn, she is seldom talked about. In fact, most members of the church seem afraid to even mention her. Fear is the last thing we should feel about our mother in heaven. As a mother, she is nurturing, loving, and watchful over her children. Just as the names for the King of Heaven can be traced back to older versions, so too can the names for the Queen of Heaven. In Egypt, she was Mut, then Amunet. In Mesopotamia, Antu. For Canaanites, Anat, and Elat, or Atirat. Phoenician, Athirat. Arabian, Alat, or Asherah. Hittite, Asherdu. Hebrew, Asherah. Greek, Hara. Persian, Ahurani. Indian, Aditi. These are the names that these cultures use to worship the Queen of Heaven. Is it okay to pray to the goddess? Growing up, I was taught that we should always pray to the Father in the name of the Son. That is, after all, a model of prayer that Jesus taught. But there are verses in the New Testament, Book of Mormon, and Doctrine and Covenants where prayers are directed towards Jesus himself. Hymns are also considered prayers, and there are many written to the Mother in heaven that have been found around the globe. Songs that praise and petition the Mother have given strength and courage to many, and are therefore good for the uplifting of humankind. Heavenly Mother is often worshipped with musical instruments, and as one who gives health and well-being. She is associated with cows, various birds, trees, and of course, childbirth. The goddess Ninlil, Lady of Heaven, is the wife of the Sumerian god Enlil. She was later known as Mulisu, the wife of Ashur in Assyria. Lil is usually translated as wind or air in English, and Ninlil is thought to be the goddess of the south wind, mentioned in the story of Adapa, the first man in Sumerian mythology. Her name connects her with early man again in the Jewish writings about Lilith and Adam. In fact, Enlil and Ninlil have synchronicities with Adam and Eve, which are discussed in the chapter about the first man and woman. Mesopotamians had a similar word for malevolent female spirits of the night called Lili. The Hebrews called them Lilitu. In one account, Ninlil's father receives a large dowry from Enlil for her hand in marriage. In another, however, Enlil finds her by a river and takes advantage of her. As a result, she gave birth to the moon god. She and Enlil were sent to the Underworld, where she gave birth to 3 more sons. Enlil came to her in disguise 3 times, and from these encounters she bore the god of death, the Underworld god of healing, and the god of rivers. In some accounts, Enlil and Ninlil are both fathered by Anu. Being that they are brother and sister and spent time in the Underworld as well, there is a parallel between them and the underworld couple of Egyptian mythology, Osiris and Isis. It also synchronizes with the Japanese story of Izanagi and Izanami. The disguised intercourse also brings to mind the Greek and Roman stories about Zeus or Jupiter. When the Babylonians appropriated the Sumerian pantheon, Anu's position among the gods was slightly different, and instead of having Ki, Earth, as his consort, he was espoused to Antu, Queen of Heaven. Antu was the mother of the gods in the land of Canaan and surrounding areas. She was known as Anat or Elat, the wife of Enlil. There has been a tendency over the years for people to group goddesses together into one entity. Thus, Anat became associated with virgin war goddesses. Ugarit writings depict her battling knee-deep in blood, driving people out of town with her bow and arrows, decapitating enemies, and tying their heads around her body, reminiscent of the Hindu goddess Kali. But this is due to a blending of identities between the goddesses. If male deities have been a little mixed up over the years, the goddesses have been extremely conflated. An attempt is made in this work to undo some of the confusion that this has caused. Anat is referred to as a virgin, but she bears a baby calf by Baal Hadad. She is also called the progenitress of the people and Queen of Heaven. The name Anat was used by the Akkadians for the wife of Anu, and in Egypt she was conflated with the war virgin Ashtart. The Canaanites had done the same thing and called her Anat, Athtart, and Elat. Even some Israelites used Anat as the name of Yahweh's wife. Around 500 BCE, the Babylonians conquered the kingdom of Israel, but a group of Israelites fled to an island in the Nile River of Egypt called Elephantine. Papyri have been found on the island in a temple built to Yahweh that mention Anat Yahu, Anat Yahweh. Her name was Athirat to the Phoenicians, Asherah in northwestern Arabia, and Asherah to the Israelites. Yes, the Jews worshipped Heavenly Mother too. Pottery has been found in the Sinai desert with 3 human-like characters and the inscription Yahweh and his Asherah. Asherah was a mother goddess and associated with trees. A wooden sculpture of her was in the temple that King Solomon erected to Yahweh. Column-like figurines of her have been found in Jerusalem as well. The oldest known religious artifacts are of the mother goddess. The ancient Minoans commonly kept a figurine in their homes of the goddess. She was depicted with her breast bare while holding a snake in each hand and a priestly apron over her skirt. For ancient cultures, the snake is a symbol of wisdom, and mother goddesses are often renowned for being wise. The serpent of Genesis brought wisdom to Eve before instructing her to make an apron. Wadjet was an early Egyptian snake goddess whose symbol pharaohs wore on their forehead. She was known to aid in childbirth. Later Gnostic writings refer to the goddess as Sophia, which is Greek for wisdom. The wife of Odin was called Frigg, and she was known for her wisdom and foreknowledge. For Greeks, Rhea was one of the 12 divine siblings, and she gave birth to 7 gods. She was known as Ops in ancient Rome. Rhea had her own celestial chariot with 2 roaring lionesses. She was linked with an older goddess named Sibyl, both of which were symbolized by a pillar between lionesses. Ancient lion gates are said to represent the goddess. Many people around the world would use a pillar, pole, vine, stump, oak, willow, or some other tree to symbolize the Mother of Heaven. The tree of life, found in various cultures, is linked to her as well. In ancient Persia, Iran, the goddess Ahurani, meaning companion of Ahura, was thought to give health and prosperity. The Zoroastrian priests would give a milk offering as they sang this hymn to her. We sacrifice to thee, O thou Ahurian one, I beseech, with my benediction for a safe abode, for a joyful and a long abode for the dwellers in this village. The Hindu goddess Aditi was also petitioned for happiness, safety, and prosperity in this song. Aditi, guard our herd by day. Aditi, free from guile, by night. Aditi, ever strengthening, save us from grief. And in the day our hymn is this: may Aditi come nigh to help, with loving kindness, bring us weal and chase our foes. Aditi is the mother of 12 gods called Adityas. She is married to Brahma, and she is said to ride the skies on a rooster. Another name for this Hindu goddess is Saraswati, the wife of Brahma, referred to as one who purifies, is full of wisdom, plays music, and rides a swan or peacock. The Hindu Trimurti of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are seen as 3 divisions of the same essence. Likewise, the wives of these gods are considered to be different aspects of the one. This trinity of goddesses is comprised of Saraswati, who is called on for purification and wisdom, Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth and prosperity, and Parvati, the goddess of strength, fertility, and devotion. Mother goddesses were very important to ancient cultures, but over the years the world has become predominantly patriarchal and male-dominated. Priestesses were removed from the priesthoods, where they had officiated for many years. In recent years, there has been a small revival of the mother goddess, mostly among groups that consider themselves to be pagan, such as Wicca. At the very least, we should acknowledge the feminine aspect of the divine, whether we refer to it as Yin, Heavenly Mother, or one of the many names she has been given. It appears that a suitable form for thanksgiving is through song. Mother in Heaven. India. Saraswati is the consort of Brahma. She rides a white swan in the sky. She is the goddess of music, poetry, and wisdom. Persia, Ahurani, the consort of Ahura Mazda. Sumeria, Ninlil, Lady Wind, wife of Enlil and mother of the war god and the underworld god. Canaan, Elat, the queen of the heavens and wife of El. She was also known as Anat and Athirat. Arabia, Alat, wife of Allah, aka Asherah. Judea, Asherah, the wife of the high god Eloah, Yahweh. Turkey, Hittites, Asherdu. Slavic, Perkunatele, the mother of Perun, the lightning god. Greece, Rhea, a Titaness wife and sister of Cronus and mother of the Olympian gods. She gave birth to Zeus on Crete to protect him from Cronus. Rome, Ops, goddess of prosperity, The cornucopia is her symbol. She is married to Saturn. Celtic, Morrigan, jealous wife of Dagda. She can shapeshift into a crow. Norse, Frigg, goddess of wisdom and prophecy, wife of Odin and mother of the gods. Egypt, Mut, mother, wife of Amun and mother of the gods. Nigeria, Yoruba, Yamoja, mother of the seas, considered to be the mother of all living. Yucatan, Maya, Ischel, grandmother goddess of midwifery and medicine. Mexico, Aztec, Tosi, our grandmother. She is known as the mother of the gods and is synchronized with the Maya goddess Ischel. Mongolia, Yer-Anri, also known as Yer-Ana, is the daughter of Sky and both wife and sister of Kyra. Together they are the parents of the gods. Australia, Bukowe, grandmother sky goddess. She is called on by medicine men.